A bipartisan deal for strict new border and immigration laws collapses.
We need a fix, and we needed it yesterday.
What's next for the crisis at the border?
I actually hope the Biden administration takes legal action.
This morning, we go beyond the politics.
I really don't like this political theater.
For a closer look at the root causes of border challenges.
It's a big misunderstanding at the border right now.
Plus, the North Texas lawmaker trying to hold on to his seat after voting to impeach Attorney General Ken Paxton.
What my voters are concerned about is the border, the economy, and education.
We sit down with Representative Matt Shaheen and his challenger, businessman Wayne Richard.
I think the number one issue is something that has just taken place here recently in the campaign.
Lone Star Politics starts right now.
This is Lone Star Politics from NBC5 and the Dallas Morning News.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Brian Curtis, sitting in for NBC5 political reporter Phil Prazin.
And I'm Gromer Jeffers, political writer with the Dallas Morning News. The battle between Governor Abbott and the Biden administration continues to escalate,
leaving many, especially Texans, along the border fearing the crisis will get worse. Governor Abbott says more Texas National Guard troops will deploy to the border. Meanwhile, President Biden is said to be considering executive action after a bipartisan border security bill was blocked by most Republicans, including Texas Senators John Cornyn and Ted Cruz.
The objective of this bill was, number one, to do nothing, so to do zero to secure the border, but to let every Democrat running for office say, gosh, I wanted to secure the border. But those mean Republicans wouldn't let us.
During the early days of the Obama administration, we had 21,000 people a year that requested asylum. We had that in 2 days in December.
I'm hoping that the federal government will cut a deal and completely stop this madness.
For some perspective on immigration policy, let's bring in Laura Collins. She's the director of the Bush Institute, SMU Economic Growth Initiative at the George W. Bush Institute. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, your reaction to the collapse of the immigration bill.
You know, politics tends to get in the way of immigration, especially over the last decade plus. It's unfortunate. We thought there were some good policy proposals in that legislation. We'll see what comes out of it if there's any more movement later. But things are always difficult in a presidential election year, and I think that's what we really ran into here.
What about the proposal did you like? You said there was some good stuff in it.
What I really liked about it was it combined border enforcement with legal immigration. We know they're intimately related. If your legal immigration system's not working and people don't have legal pathways to come here, that's when the border starts to get really messy. We know there are a lot of people on the move worldwide. We know that there's not a lot of legal opportunities to come to the United States, and so that's why we see our asylum system at the border so burdened. This legislation would have increased legal immigration a little bit. That would have eased up a little bit of that. It also changed some dynamics about who qualifies for asylum. I would have liked to see a little bit of a different approach on that, maybe a little bit more of the foreign assistance piece moving towards preventing people from leaving their homes, making sure they can thrive where they are, and less about just picking and choosing once they get to the border. But overall, it was a really interesting framework and a really good approach, even if the details weren't perfect.
I think a lot of people were frustrated on both sides because they've worked so hard to get something substantive on this issue. Here it was, and then it collapsed. So what is the path forward?
You know, I really don't know. Obviously, it's a really important issue to our country. You know, at the Bush Institute, we think that it's one of the most important things to ensure the future prosperity and vitality and security of our nation. So we do have to get it right. And that means that we increase legal immigration and we make sure that we have people coming in to meet the open jobs that we have here in this country. It also means that we get border policy right. It's not just, not just about barriers. It's not just about turning people away. It's really managing the different types of people that come here, making sure that we have not just immigration and security on our minds when we talk about the border. It's also about trade and travel. And that border is such an asset for us. Not to be afraid of it, to really view it as that and find a system that meets today's realities because we know that it's important to our future.
One of the sticking points is always, what do you do with the 11.5 million people here without authorization? Do you give them a path to citizenship What do you think the best approach is there?
We know that they are here. We know a lot of them have been here for 5, 10, 15 years. We know that by and large they're working because they don't qualify for any entitlement benefits, and so to survive here they have to work. We really think that to strengthen our communities, it makes sense to find an earned pathway to citizenship for those folks, make sure that we are fully integrating them and assimilating them into our communities. We know that in the past decade, every proposal that deals with them has similar types of hurdles for them to overcome. Maybe it's paying back taxes or a fine, making sure that they have a background check, knowing who they are. But all of those proposals really are about finding a way for them to fully integrate into our communities. Citizenship is about rights and responsibilities, and when you don't have the ability to fully integrate into your community, you're just less productive overall. So knowing that it would be not only productive for them to remain here and doing the jobs that they're doing, but also be really expensive to find and deport them. A lot of them have American citizen children. It would be, I think, difficult to watch that play out if we were to just round up and deport all of them.
We have this dynamic right now between the state and the federal government. It's just become so bitter. How do we get past that?
Bitter is an excellent word. You know, I think that when we think about enforcement and immigration in particular, the state does have an important role to play, but cooperation is the key word that I think is missing here. It's unclear to me if there's a lack of cooperation on the state side or if there's a lack of cooperation on the federal side. Either way, both parties really need to figure it out, get together, because we work better on these issues if we are cooperating.
Yep, sounds like there are ideas out there, but politics always gets in the way. I know that former President George W. Bush, this was an important issue for him as well.
People are very passionate. I think it is because we're dealing with people, and we're really dealing with, you know, who we allow in. We're picking winners and losers, right? When we talk about the rules behind immigration. Who are we going to allow into the country? Where do they come from? What does their education look like? And that makes it, I think, a little bit more heated and difficult, but it doesn't need to be. These are issues that are so important to our future prosperity and vitality. And if we're not thinking about them with a clear mind and really trying to just be as neutral about it as possible, then we won't end up with the best policy solution to ultimately benefit our nation.
Laura Collins from the Bush Institute. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate your insight. Very valuable. Well, we continue our countdown to the Texas primary. Coming up, a war of words and serious allegations in a key race in Collin County.
Well, that's the key word. Scandals, rumors and innuendo.
I'll support Daffy Duck if they end abortion in the state of Texas.
More from the candidates next.
It's our job to make sure that every vote counts and that there are no shenanigans.
Texas Secretary of State Jane Nelson is touring the state to get Texans ready for the Texas primary. Texans will head to the polls on March 5th as part of Super Tuesday. Although excitement is high for the presidential race, there's a lot on the line for many state and local races.
Yeah, one we will be watching closely happens in Collin County, where Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has vowed to clean house of lawmakers who voted to impeach him. In District 66, this includes 5-term Plano Representative Matt Shaheen. Shaheen is being challenged by businessman Wayne Richard. Shaheen does have the endorsement of Governor Greg Abbott. His campaign recently raised nearly $300,000, with big money coming from Speaker Dade Phelan, Texans for Lawsuit Reform, and the Family Coalition. Our political reporter, Phil Prazin, sat down with Shaheen.
Well, Representative Matt Shaheen, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you bet.
Let's just start with just the opening question of primary voters this March. Why should they pick you and not your opponent, Wayne Richard?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a proven record. I'm one of the most conservative members in the entire legislature. I'm endorsed by Governor Abbott, former Governor Rick Perry. Because of my fight on the border, we've deployed thousands of state troopers on the border. We're building the wall because the failures of the federal government. And quite frankly, I'm a big fighter of sex trafficking. We have a big problem with sex trafficking in the state of Texas, and we're actually working on legislation to give sex traffickers in the state of Texas the death penalty.
And so that's kind of the next big project for next session.
That's right.
If they reelect you.
That's right.
What do you think is the biggest difference between you and your opponent?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I'm a proven conservative. I've got the voting record. I'm literally ranked one of the most conservative members in the House. I mean, I'm endorsed by Texas Alliance for Life because of my pro-life work. Thousands of little babies in the state of Texas are now living every month because of the work that we've done. I'm endorsed by Texas Values, been protecting children from sexual exploitation, online pornography. So I'm just a proven conservative in the race.
Your race is one of the, we've covered a lot of times this last year, it seems like, part of the fallout from the Ken Paxton impeachment.
Yeah.
With all the information you know now, I know it kind of changes every day, there's new information. With everything you know now, you still feel good about that vote to impeach him? You still think that you did the right thing there?
Oh, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, the House's job was to determine whether there should be a trial or not. We had 8 witnesses testifying that there was criminal wrongdoing. If you and I or any citizen listening to this show has 8 witnesses saying they've broken the law in the state of Texas, there's going to be a trial. And at the end of the day, it's do you believe Ken Paxton, who's been unfaithful to his wife that had a mistress down in Austin, or do you believe 8 career individuals, professionals, some of the staunch conservatives? One was an appointee by President Trump to be a judge. Do you believe those 8 people, or do you believe the person that cheated on his wife?
Not just your opponent, but kind of the squad of people that are endorsed by the Defend Texas Liberty crowd.
Right.
Attorney General Ken Paxton. They're campaigning on this idea of an Austin swamp, right?
That's right.
With the Democratic chairs, they've made Dade Phelan, the Speaker of the House, somewhat of a boogeyman.
Yeah.
What do you think about that message, and what's your perception on leadership in the Texas House?
I've knocked on, I don't know, probably over 1,000 doors, talked to just large numbers of voters out there. Here's what the voters don't even know who Dade Phelan is. What my voters are concerned about is the border, the economy, and education. Those are the things that are top of mind. That's what I'm engaging them on, and that's what we're going to be focused on.
Do you think that Speaker of the House, Dade Phelan, does a good job? You feel like you'd be supporting him next session?
Look at his record. We've ended abortion in Texas. We've been trying to do that for 5 decades. We've passed constitutional carry. I passed one of the strongest religious freedom bills in the nation. We're protecting children from being sexualized. I mean, we even passed legislation that our schools are required to have our nation's motto, "In God We Trust," all while he was Speaker.
So just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly, that yes, you would support Speaker Phelan next session?
I'll support Daffy Duck if they end abortion in the state of Texas.
Okay,
yes,
so
I am backing him, absolutely.
District 66 challenger Wayne Richard is the owner of W.S. Richard Enterprises and a former conservative talk show host. He has the backing of Attorney General Ken Paxton. His campaign recently reported $33,000, which includes a personal loan and major donations from Linda Block and Sam Fritcher. Here's Phil's conversation.
So let's just start with a basic question, but why you and not the incumbent Representative Shaheen?
So there are many components to that decision. But I think the #1 issue is something that has just taken place here recently in the campaign, and it has to do with character. My opponent has known me for 14 years now. He's been to my home. We've broken bread together with our wives. We actually attend the same church. And just recently, like within the last week or so, I guess his consultants have determined that they need to attack me. Now remember, he knows me. We go to the same church. And they're putting mailers out there associating me with Nazi sympathy. They're saying I'm a defender of Hitler, a Nazi sympathizer, a Holocaust denier. My opponent knows me. He knows this is not true.
There was the kind of scandal where the Defend Texas Liberty, a big Paxton supporter, did have that meeting with Nick Fuentes, who is a very well-known white supremacist. He's connecting you with that group.
No.
And you haven't taken any money? No. You don't know those people?
No. In fact, they first decided to go with that attack after another party group, I think it's something Gun Rights, put a mailer out regarding his Second Amendment issues. I don't know who they are. I've never had contact with them. And I actually personally went to him a couple of days ago and said, hey, look, I just want you to know I had absolutely nothing to do with that mailer. They're tying that group to the Nazi issue as well. So he knows it's not true. People don't want this to be typical politics anymore. They want to believe that the representatives that they have in Austin, number one, represent what they believe, and that they can believe what they're telling them when they come back to the district about what's actually taking place.
I did ask Representative Shaheen if he still stands by that vote. He says he does. Would you have voted differently in that impeachment trial of Attorney General Ken Paxton, or the impeachment effort in the House?
In the House,
trial?
yes. So it's an interesting question because some people were following my decision to run, and when I was asked originally by GOP leadership, I said, look, I don't know. You know, my opponent votes right most of the time. I need to kind of watch this. So I started to study it, and then the impeachment issue came up. My problem was due process. I don't believe that due process was actually carried through, and that's a major constitutional Bill of Rights issue. Everyone has to have due process, so we're just like China. So when they came in and they had a packet of evidence, you know, and they said they had 3 days to analyze it. This was the most important vote, probably, of my opponent's political career, to impeach the Attorney General of Texas, who is battling not only for Texas, but he's battling for the United States.
So you like his lawsuits against the Biden administration. He does have an investigation or a criminal trial in Harris County. He is under investigation from the FBI. He does have the Barr complaint against him. But just so I'm clear, you think that the good outweighs the scandals that he has?
Well, that's the key word. Scandals, rumors and innuendo. Innocent until proven guilty. Anybody can lodge a charge against anyone anytime they want. That doesn't make them guilty. You're innocent until proven guilty. And I consider him innocent until they prove him guilty.
So how much weight does the endorsement of Governor Abbott or AG Paxton carry when it comes to endorsing candidates in the upcoming primary? Both Texas leaders are on a mission to clean house. According to a study out of the University of Houston, the governor has more clout than Paxton, Senator Ted Cruz, and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, but far less than former President Trump, who received 70%. Just 40% said they would likely vote for a Texas House candidate because they were endorsed by Ken Paxton. So, Gromer, interesting numbers there. What does all this mean for what's been called the revenge tour?
It means that if Ken Paxton is going to be successful on his revenge tour, he's going to have to somehow go through Greg Abbott, particularly with these candidates in Collin County. Abbott has endorsed them. The rallies have been well attended. 500 people at least at all of these rallies for the Collin County Republicans. And he brings money with him. Money provides resources and makes it easier for these guys to get their message out. So it's going to be a tough road for the challengers. Not impossible, but you know, that study shows what they're up against against Abbott's endorsement.
Yeah, well, we will know soon enough, for sure. Let's turn now to Congress and the race for House District 33. The incumbent, Representative Mark Vesey of Fort Worth, and activist Carlos Quintanilla are running in the Democratic primary.
Vesey has held the seat since 2013. We spoke with both candidates.
I feel good about it, but look, I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm going to go out there and I am going to talk about the fact that I worked hard to get affordable connectivity program put into the bipartisan infrastructure plan, that I got lots of money for major flood control projects and the Southern Gateway project here in Dallas. I got a YMCA reopened in my district in East Fort Worth. So I have a lot to run on that I'm proud about, and going to keep going to Washington, D.C. and fighting hard. And again, not taking anything for granted.
The difference between my congressional office and Mark Vesey's congressional office is that I will be an activist congressman. We will have an activist office fighting for people and helping people on issues that are important to them, such as illegal evictions, access to health care insurance, helping them with immigration issues, trying to get them jobs, dealing with the bureaucracy of Congress and the federal government, and trying to help them live a better life. And I think that our community needs to go from one of the poorest congressional districts in Texas to one of the most vibrant.
To hear extended interviews with the candidates and for our voter guide, check out NBCDFW.com. You'll also find them on our streaming channels. History is all around us, and in Austin this month, there are no truer words. The NEAT project that's bringing political history to life. It's next on Lone Star Politics.
Political history is coming to life in Austin.
In honor of Black History Month, an augmented reality event called History All Around Us has launched at the Capitol. The 3D digital art features historical interpretations and engaging narratives, including civil rights activist Booker T. Washington.
I have but one object in view.
Governor Campbell invited Booker T. Washington to speak at the Capitol, but the legislature forbid him to speak anywhere on the grounds, right? So in one way, this experience redeems some of the history that he was not allowed to do here.
It is free, but you do need the Augzoo app for iPhone products. Really cool how they can use technology.
Yeah, and that's the importance of history and going back and remembering things and putting things into proper perspective. Really cool situation there.
Well, that's all the time we have. Stay tuned for Meet the Press with Kristen Welker, and thanks for joining us for Lone Star Politics.